clearly as human beings, we are primed for someone to tell us stories that aren't true that we can get behind and then start, becoming like cultish with.
We need to have some
Yes.
sort of an answer for who are we? Why are we here? What's the point of all this? And all those things provide answers, and it's easier to latch on to that.
What's going on, man? What are you up to?
Another week, another day. Here we are.
I know. Did you watch the Tyson fight?
I did. And it was, I feel two ways about it. I feel, one, we all got suckered into something, but also like it's our own faults. And two, the guy's 58 years old and he did what he did, and it's impressive, and I'm happy for him. And those guys made a ton of money, and good for them. But it, I could have went without watching it.
Bro, let me tell you something, man. I 100% agree. I was happy that, childhood hero makes, $20 million for really just a exhibition match. But for me, let me tell you, for me, what I just came away with it, I'm like, we are so freaking living in a bonkers upside down world simulation where everywhere you look, you're just like, is this really what? And the reason I say that is because you realize that was one of the biggest sporting events of the last decade.
Yeah. It was
like that was not a sporting event.
No.
That was like WWE masquerading like pro wrestling as a sporting event.
That's exactly what it was. At this point, we could be roped into anything, man. We could be roped
into
anything. And you know what? I give it up to Jake Paul, man. I mean, I don't particularly care for him, but at the same time, like, this is a kid, him and his brother, they came from, nowhere, bumfuck Ohio. And like, think of the power that these guys have over the populace, like the influence and it's impressive. I mean, you got to tip your hat to him on that level of like, how has he done this?
Dude, I think that it's very important to take a step back and look at where we are as a society and where we are as humanity, because I think that this thing right now is what's happening everywhere. If you can learn to control, the eyeballs, then you can make anything, even bullshit,
real,
right?
Yep.
You could be a reality TV star and become president. You can be a YouTuber and become, a legitimate
Mike Tyson and earn $100
million
bucks.
Mike Tyson. Yeah, exactly. Where you're making, that's the reality that we're living in. Dude, it really is cool because I am reading this book right now called Nexus by Yoa, I think his name is. He's I think he wrote the book Sapiens, which was bomb. So this new one, I'm just getting into it, and it's all about AI. And so surprise, that I'm into that. But the reality is that it's starting out about, information. And it's like, what is information? And he kind of asks the question, must information be true to be effective? And he's like, no, truth has nothing to do with information.
Yeah, and truth is so subjective.
Yeah, he's like, how we define like information is it networks us together. And so one of the first great technologies, we had was story. And what did story do? Story connected us as human beings, and it could connect like more than like 3 or 4 or 5 people. Like if you and I are like, hey, we're going to work on this house, we're going to build this house in the jungle, we get 6 of us, 8 of us, and build this house, it wouldn't really be a difficult thing to do, right? So that's very easy. We're like, okay, this is what we're going to do. We've done it before. But when you start talking about, dude, we're going to get thousands and thousands of us, and we're going to build, the
villages,
the pyramids or whatever, pyramids or a cathedral or whatever. I mean, think about a cathedral. It's not just built a set of building plans, but you need to inspire people. And so our first great technology as humans was not just language, but story, because it was story. Language enabled us to, to pass on and to communicate, but it was story that enabled us to unite millions and billions of people around the world. Think about the Bible, right? The Bible it's a set of information that worked to unite billions of people around the world. We had the Crusades, we've had even to this day. Does that mean it's true? Does that mean that that 5,000 years ago, man was created in a Garden of Eden? No, it's not true.
I mean, likely most of it's not true.
Yeah, it's not true. So, but that doesn't reduce the effectiveness and the power of that story.
It's crazy.
Here, so here as human beings, we have this book, which so many of the things in there are clearly not real.
Well,
right?
What do they
based
call
on mythology?
They call the story of Jesus the greatest story ever told. Do you ever hear that?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a Christian thing, the greatest story ever told. And that's what it is, a story.
It's a story, Were there really 3 wise men, and did they bring myrrh? Did they bring,
did she get pregnant without having sex?
Yeah.
I mean, the only human in his history.
And the remarkable thing is that, so much of that is clearly not real. It actually contradicts. We've got 3 gospels, and there are contradictory parts of the story in all 3 of those. And so, but it doesn't, what he's saying is it doesn't matter. What matters is it connected us, and it connected human beings into a singular kind of thought pattern, into acting a certain way. And so, clearly as human beings, we are primed for someone to tell us stories that aren't true, that we can get behind and then start, becoming like cultish with. And I think that
we can't sit in uncertainty. That is the thing that we have. We can't. That's why we need all this stuff, because we need to have some sort of an answer for who are we, why are we here, what's the point of all this, and all those things provide answers. And it's easier to latch on to that than to just sit with the uncertainty of we don't know, and all there is this present moment.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, I think what you're alluding to, or what I hear about that, is that, our brains are like primed, when we feel uncertainty. I think that's where superstition is born, because we would rather have an untrue story that at least gives us comfort than not knowing. We can't deal with not knowing. But I think that, it's important at this stage of human evolution to look at, like, okay, this is a blind spot that we have, to where we will rally behind a story that someone can spin, before it was, with biblical texts or whatever it was, or Greek mythology or whatever. And now it's become, conspiracy theories and nonsense, where if you can go on a big podcast and start spinning nonsense, then you're going to attract enough people to go, oh yeah, you're not a doctor, but you know what I mean?
Yep. People make enough clips of it, and it circulates enough.
And it circulates. And I think that the Tyson fight was a direct, and everything that Jake Paul's done has been a direct result of that, where he's able to spin. He's a spin doctor, and he's able to spin these stories and get enough people behind it to go, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. Guess what? I signed up for Netflix, and I didn't have a Netflix account for like years. And I was like, well, I'm going to watch this fight. It's going to be a clown show, maybe, but maybe Tyson will knock him out. I actually deluded myself into thinking, oh, yeah, Tyson's got a chance, when clearly,
no shot.
Clearly, no shot.
Yeah, everybody did. Everybody did. Everybody in the whole world deluded themselves. And like, even I went into it like saying, like, I know that this is not possible, but you never know. You know what I mean? Like I want to see Tyson do something, but at the same time, the kid's 27 years old and Mike's almost 60, and there's almost no way it's gonna, and like you knew it, but you wanted to see anyway. You wanted to see the spectacle.
I think, when I wrote the book Into the Cage, Rise of UFC Nation, and in there I like profiled like how does a fighter break through? Now clearly a fighter needs to be really, really good, right? But I talked about Joseph Campbell and his work with the hero's journey, and how human beings are very primed. What he discovered is that within our brains, we are very primed for stories of the hero's journey, where we have archetypes, right? And what I said was, I posited that that if a fighter can really latch onto one of those archetypes, then he can break through. If you're just a regular fighter and you don't really, you know what I mean? Like I look at someone like Chael Sonnen, right? He's like, he played the heel. He was like the kind of the villain, right? That you love, the bad guy and all that. Chael, great fighter, but not at the level of, Anderson Silva or anything like that. But what he could do was spin a story.
Yep. And he worked his way into the conversation.
And he worked his way into the conversation. Yep. Yes, that's exactly right. And so and Conor was able to do the same thing. Conor was amazing at 145, but really not as, just couldn't bring it at 55. And I love watching Conor fight, man. I love it. I love he was able to bring that story. And so in the book Nexus, what they talk about is how, Joseph Stalin was a strongman. And in that archetype for human beings is something that we love. Like a lot of people are like, I like the strongman, even if the strongman is going to trample my democratic rights. So I bring that up in regards to, Hitler and Mussolini and Stalin. And so those were beloved leaders, right? But the minute they got into power, they started constricting democratic rights and freedoms. And, in Stalin, it was like murdered millions and millions and millions and millions. So did Hitler, but they were very popular because they were able to spin that Jake Paul, like Conor McGregor, Chael Sonnen, like story
propaganda
about themselves. Yeah, but about themselves. And here's what he says in Nexus is that even Stalin said to his younger son, his younger son started kind of acting like a boss and all that. And he stopped his son and he's like, he goes, you can't do this to his son. And his son said, well, I'm a Stalin. He goes, no, you're not a Stalin. And he goes, and I'm not a Stalin. What he meant was Stalin is an archetype.
Character. Yeah, that I made up.
It's a character. It's a story that I have spun.
Interesting.
And that's not you. You're not it, and it's not even me. Wow. So when humanity, when society falls in love or hates the archetype, they don't know the person. They don't know the person at all, right? Yeah. So they only know the story. And so as human beings, we have this blind spot where we confuse the strongman or whatever archetype it is with the person, like for instance, I've hung out, in private, name drop, whatever, John Jones, nicest guy in the world. A lot of people don't like him, but what they don't like about him is, yes, some of his behavior, but they don't like his story. And the reality is when you strip all that away and you're with him, it's a completely different animal. You know what I mean? Conor McGregor, same way. You know, I hung out with Conor McGregor, like nicest guy. You know?
Yeah, because I mean, you got to understand like that. Like these guys have this opportunity, this moment in time where they have the attention, they have the talent, they're in the octagon, they're in the public eye. They're gonna go for it, and they're gonna try to fucking make it happen because, like, yeah, you know, Bill in Chicago doesn't like you, but yeah, this is your opportunity to set yourself up for multiple generations and so on and so forth. It's what you got to do. You know what I mean? And it's incredible how, you know, regular people like don't understand that. You know. Even like Gordon Ryan, he gets the same thing. I mean, I don't know him, but I'm making the assumption that there's probably some similarities there too. Like he tapped in, he's the first guy to really tap into that, and then I guess Craig Jones kind of followed suit. But like in jiu-jitsu, like these guys are, you know, these guys are playing a character.
Well, I will say, you know, if you look at the nuances of the difference in their character, is that, you know, Gordon Ryan plays like the strongman, like heel character. He's an asshole with the crown and all that shit and all that. You know, I mean, none of this is denigrating any of these athletes' athletic prowess and performance. That's not what we're talking about.
But if it was just about that, they wouldn't make money.
They would not make money. And you've had plenty of guys like that. And who is a perfect example of that? Jose Aldo. Yeah. Jose Aldo was probably perhaps one of the greatest MMA fighters to ever live, and people, for the most part, compared to the guy Chael Sonnen, didn't care. Whereas Conor McGregor, same weight class, right? Same exact weight class, was able to it just blow up. And Conor McGregor was not as dominant as a fighter in the same weight class as Jose Aldo was. So this is really where you see this, where this archetype takes place. But like the difference between Craig Jones and Gordon Ryan is that Craig Jones is not the strong man, you know, heel, whatever you want to call it. He plays the jester.
Yeah,
right?
For sure.
That's an archetype. Yep, that's an archetype.
Definitely is. Yep. That's exactly what that is. He's the jester. Yeah. That's a good way to put it.
And so when, you know, when I first started, I was on that TV show and I started doing all those videos with Dana. That's exactly what I did. We even talked about it. Yes, because I was like, you know what? Everyone is going to think if they don't, I was very, very protective over what people knew about me back then. Like no one knew anything about me. We didn't say anything about my origin or anything. And so it was just, you know, he was out of tooth, doing crazy funny shit, but they didn't know that I was a lawyer, that I had an MBA, blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean? That I came from a serious background. And so we kept that like really tightly hidden. And it was just so that it would enable that whole jester thing. And people loved it, man. When we first started doing like the video blogs on before even the show, like, dude, we did this crazy one where I was in a wheelchair and I was going down this hill almost killing myself, and you know, and people were laughing and we put funny music to it. And they had some guy who messaged me, he was like in the hospital dying of cancer, and he was like, dude, you guys made me laugh and smile, and I have not felt that for so long, and this might be my last laugh and smile. And I was like, damn.
But how did you feel? Like, did you feel good about playing that character? Did you feel like it aligned with you, or you didn't like it?
It's, you know, well, first off, it doesn't align with you. You're playing a character, right? I mean, at some point, yes, it aligns with me because I thought it was funny. I love Andy Kaufman. Andy Kaufman was very much the same way, a very serious person who meditated and all that. And he took that to the nth degree. But
yeah,
so I think after a while of doing it, I didn't enjoy it, where I was like, I got over it. At first I was like, let's see in an Andy Kaufman way where we could take it. But then after a while I was like, this, you know, to what end? You know what I mean? To what end? To where you're always all the time on, and you're always on all the time. You know what I mean? I'm
It's
not at the
interesting.
end. I'm not a comedian. I'm not a TV actor. Like, I acted in the TV show Kingdom, and I've done that, but I made a very conscious decision where I'm like, I don't want to be an actor, and I don't want to be a comedian. I
It's
had
interesting.
offers, you know?
Yeah. It's interesting that you bring this up because like that's what, like, you know, long before I knew you personally, I became aware of you from that show with Dana White.
Mm-hmm.
And I never really thought about this until right now because I didn't really think about that show. But like, yeah, the character that you were on that show is nothing like the person that I know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you're very different from that guy. Like and it's I never thought about that until now.
Yeah, and so yeah, and because I'm not that guy. That to me was just a character. That's all that
Yeah.
was. All it
It's an
was
opportunity. You playing it up.
I was acting. It was like, here's an opportunity to experience, doing the whole Andy Kaufman thing where you're putting on a completely different persona, you know.
What's
So
Kingdom? Kingdom was that MMA show with the dude?
yes,
I watched that
yeah.
show. I didn't realize you were in it.
Not only was I in it, but did you the title sequence when the first it came up where the music and that's what they call a title sequence. So it
Yeah,
starts in Kingdom, dun dun dun, dun, it's like a Jane's
yeah,
Addiction type song. All
yeah.
those photographs, I took all those photographs.
Oh,
So I
really?
was a photographer for all of that. Yeah. So, on
Sure.
my serious side, I'm a photographer and a writer. That's, so they contacted me, they got hold of the book, and they were like, holy shit, man, we love the imagery, the photographs. Could you design the whole and be the photographer of the whole thing? So all those photographs are exclusively mine. And yeah, I acted in a couple episodes.
Wow, man, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I
Mm-hmm.
watched that show. I watched that show. Crazy, man. It's cool.
People like during COVID when it replayed, it got released. At first, it was on DirecTV, but then it got released on Netflix, I think. And a lot of people hit me and they were like, "Holy shit, what are you doing in that show?" So because I was wearing an Art of Jiu-Jitsu shirt in the show.
Okay.
And
Okay.
I was a photographer in the show. They were like, "Yeah, okay, well, you come on." And I got in a fight with one of the fighters or something, But
Okay.
I quickly realized, like,
That's not you.
I've always wanted to experience things in life. I've always wanted to. That's the reason ultimately. That's the reason ultimately that I believe we're here, and that's
I
the only
agree.
reason that we're here is to just like everyone wants to know what are. Here's what I think. I was just writing about this because I'm getting very, very close to releasing my next book, The Zen Protocol. You see me post about it.
Yep.
And one of the things I was, writing about is how, my belief is that, we are a consciousness that inhabits this body, but the less that we can be attached to what is really our experience in this body or the movie, the happier we're going to be. It's like that, a lot of like Zen, like paths, and practices, what they teach is that you have to detach. The more attached you are to everything in this reality, the more suffering you're going to endure. And that's all there is to it. Because everything you have ever known in this reality has come and gone. Every single thing, every person, everything that you have in you, everywhere around you, every one of the room you're in, the car you drive, the
Yeah.
person you're with, all of it, your children, they were not always there, and they will
No.
not always, or maybe you won't be there, whatever it is, but we're in this constant change. And I think this goes back to what you're saying, is that we are so uncomfortable with the unknown and not knowing. And what is the ultimate unknowing is like, what's going to happen in the next moment? We don't know.
Yep. And I think it all
We don't know.
stems from the fact that we have the knowledge of we're going to die. I think like it's all like it's something that I've thought about for very many years, to where like all of the problems that we experience are somehow subconsciously connected to the fear of death, which is ultimately the fear of the unknown, the fear of, the loss of the ultimate loss of control. Like we have some sort of innate programming to where we need to have the reason, we need to understand the plan, we need to know why, we need to have an attachment, like what you're saying. We need to be attached to something rather than, like what we always talk about, being able to just sit and be
and
with
flow
yourself, whatever it
with
is
it.
that you
Can we
are,
flow with, yeah, can we just flow with it, can we just flow with it? And that's what's so difficult. And that's why, it's I think these things that we're talking about, they're both related, right? The attachment that we have to things, the attachment to archetypes, because an archetype will come along as a strong man, and will tell you, I have an answer, and they don't have an answer. You don't want to accept that they don't have an answer, but you sure do like that someone's willing to say with conviction, no, I have an answer. And it's like,
Yep.
no, you don't have an answer. That's this daddy complex that you have.
Yeah.
Right? You have a daddy complex where you need someone, you would rather have someone come along and tell you the way things are when they're not that way.
I think that's true.
So I think, yeah, it is wild. I mean, sit with that and think about that, right? And all of this is related, right, to even the stories and all that. Why do we attach to these things that are so like nonsensical?
Why do we attach to anything at all when we're just gonna, get dissolved into the river of time?
Yes. So Zen is really about, I was just writing this too. I said, I'm really like opening the book with Zen is punk rock. And Zen is punk rock because Zen is the most contrarian thing in the world. And that's the ethos of punk rock, right? It's just contrarian to everything. Because what Zen is, Zen like, I don't say mean Zen, I mean Zen like teachings. What they tell us is that your thoughts are not real, they're illusory. The one thing that you experience day in, day out, every moment of every day are this river of thoughts. And it's illusion. It's illusory. They come and they go, 40,000 to 60,000 a day. And then you learn, when you go deeper into it, these practices, you learn that, thoughts really comprise stories. And the stories you tell yourself are nonsense. They're just fucking nonsense. You're telling yourself stories about the future, which probably are never going to come true, fantasy or fear. You're telling yourself stories about the past. You're constantly reinterpreting the past. Nonsense. I was explaining this to someone the other day about how, the reality is that in a court of law, one of the most undependable things that you can have is eyewitness testimony.
Yeah.
Right? Camera footage, yeah. DNA evidence, yeah. Fingerprints, all that, yeah. But eyewitness testimony, no, because what they've realized over time is that our brains as human beings are constantly reinterpreting and reimagining what we saw.
Sure.
That's crazy, dude.
You ever catch yourself kind of like lying to yourself over like let's say you like an exaggeration, right? Like, and like in business, this happens all the time. Like, yeah, we did 5 million in sales last year when you really did 4.65, but we did 5 million, you know what I mean? And like things like that, like little exaggerations, little white lies, and then they become part of the ongoing story. And then every once in a while I'll catch myself like, wait, I know that didn't really happen. Like that didn't really happen, but I've created it now. It's weird.
Yeah. So I've talked with you about this before when we were working together, and I work with everybody on this. I'm like, listen, it starts as human beings. Our programming is all about language, right? That's how we have images, of course, but language and story. It's very important, I found, to start distancing and calling it what it is and saying, when you say, do you ever find yourself? I say, do I ever catch my mind?
Mm,
Do I ever catch my mind? Because it is separate from me, right?
yeah.
My mind has the tendency to lie. My mind has the tendency to exaggerate. My mind has the tendency to fantasize. My mind has the tendency to fear. But that's not me. I believe that I am behind that. When you meditate enough and you've experienced this, you can watch your mind act acting, and it's doing its thing where it's spinning and spinning and spinning and spinning and spinning.
And you
And
see how
so,
involuntary it is. You see how like it's its own track that's just playing, outside of your, design. It's wild.
yeah,
It's
right. And
wild.
so that's like in the Matrix, that's like the awakening. Or I was writing about this also. Another great movie, that speaks to this metaphor is Inception.
Mm,
Remember when his wife was down many levels and she was lost in the dream?
yeah.
In essence, what he was trying to do was either wake her up or wake himself up. You were in so many, a dream within a dream within a dream. And that's kind of like what I think the path of Zen is that, is understanding that we are not our minds. Our mind is a nut. It operates like out in front of me. I'm the observer of my mind. And I can jump into it and get lost in it. And that's where the suffering begins, because the mind is doing this all the time, right? With 40,000 thoughts, it's fantasy, fear, fantasy, fear, fantasy, fear, past, future, past, future. It's exhausting.
It's exhausting.
It's exhausting. Yesterday, I had a great experience where I meditate twice a day. Some I never miss. I just don't do it, and so it's a non-negotiable for me. And
It's
what
awesome.
I yeah, but it's just like one of those things where I'm like, nope, I'm it's too important, man. It's not. I don't I don't think of things like that as discipline. I think of things like that as just no, I just got to do it.
I've gotten that way
As
with training and exercising. Now maybe in this new stage of my life, maybe I can get there with meditation.
I don't think, but Jesse, I don't think it's. I think what happens, is that when we have a non-negotiable, if we're just like I think a big part of having a non-negotiable is releasing our attachment to achievement and expectation with it. Right? We've talked about this a lot. I'm gonna go into the gym, and if that means lifting for 5 minutes and and I'm not motivated and having a bad workout, so what? I'm
Let,
not
let
even gonna
me
think about it. I'm gonna
let,
meditate. I don't care what happens.
let me throw this at you. So
Mm-hmm.
as you're talking, I'm sitting here and I'm saying like, well, I struggle with non-negotiables, and you know why I think I struggle with non-negotiables? And
Mm-mm.
correct me if I'm wrong in terms of your interpretation of the non-negotiable for you. I'm making the assumption that your non-negotiable is because I deserve this. I need this. This is good for me. So I'm not going to sacrifice what's innately good for me for anything else. Is that kind of how your head's at?
What is the first thing that I told you when we started working together?
I deserve this.
You asked
Now,
me. You asked me what? Do you remember?
I forget, but I remember you saying that I deserve this. That has stuck with me
You
deeply.
said you said a couple people have said to me, like, how do you live your life like you do?
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
you
yeah, yeah.
travel all the time. You
Yes.
just have this
Yes.
kind of a fantasy, whatever. And I
Yep.
just stopped. And what did I say?
You deserve it.
Yeah, I said because I deserve it. That's why.
Yep.
I live the way I live because I deserve it. And you were like,
So,
whoa.
blew me away. So, I think the reason why I struggle so much with non-negotiables, and the reason why I struggle with a lot of things, is because I think deep down, I don't believe that I deserve any of it. I think deep down, I have a terrible relationship with myself, and I don't know how to prioritize what is really good for me. And what's interesting is that, like, I'm sure if you asked people, especially right now at this current moment in time, is that true? They would say absolutely not. This guy always does what he wants. He's selfish, this, that, and the third. Um, But the real truth is that the things that are really good for you, those aren't the flashy, those aren't the flashy
Mm-hmm.
things. Those are like making a commitment to meditate every single day so that you can make better
Yeah.
choices, so you can deal with stress better. And I struggle with that deeply because
Yeah, and I think what I'm hearing is that, the comparison is that some people are like, well, and I listen, I tell people all the time, it's not like I'm enlightened, it's not like I'm just on do my thing,
no,
and
you've
when I
put
can
a
when I can
you
when I can help
you
people, I will.
you've put effort into doing the things that create the results. That is the only thing there is.
Yeah, and so you said, well, people will look at me and say, he's selfish or whatever. Look, he does this and it's flashy and flashy. I think the flashy things that we do are really people do them not because they think they deserve them, but because they're a distraction. And
Yeah.
so, you know what I mean? Oh, I'm going to go out to eat and I'm going to scarf so much that I feel like shit, right? Or whatever it is. Or I'm going to go drink or I'm going to go gamble or I'm not judging anything, right? But I'm just saying those are different for me in my mind than because I deny myself a lot of those things, right? But for me, the non-negotiables are very much like you're saying, they're in a different category. They're like, this is going to help me and I deserve to be helped. This is
Yeah.
going to, right? And I deserve it, right?
Did you always feel that way, or did you need to work to get to that place?
Oh, I had to work to get to that place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So
You
then
have to,
there's
yeah.
hope.
Yes, there's hope. I think that this goes back to the vulnerability that we have to have, like, with as a fighter or jujitsu or just a human being, and to say, what are my shortcomings? It's kind of like when people hear the word trauma now, and it triggers some people and they get all angry and they're like, everybody has trauma, all this. What that really means is what they're really saying, what I hear when they say that is, it's too painful for me to look at my weaknesses and admit them and deal with them.
Yeah. So I choose other routes to soothe.
So I choose, yeah, to self-soothe. I'm going to distract myself with whatever buying, whatever purchasing, whatever
Whatever.
parties or whatever. So no, and so I think that when we're looking at where we are with how we feel worthy, it's important to look at where it always goes back to childhood. That's when we have the most plasticity in our brains, right? This is neuroscience. I'm not. It's not like we're just making shit up here, right? We have this enormous amounts of plasticity. We're completely dependent on these two people or one person or whatever, these adults in our lives. And if at any point that person demonstrates that they are either antagonistic towards us as a child or they're not trustworthy, then we have this detachment from them,
Yeah. Yeah. It's real.
right? It's real. But that happens in our subconscious. It goes all the way down. Remember, the conscious mind is 0.01%. 99% is all subconscious. This goes down the scaffolding through our entire existence, our entire being, our psyche, then is reprogrammed to help us survive in an environment where we have a parent that is either antagonistic towards us or not trustworthy. And if they're always judging us, if their love or attention is conditional upon how we do in sports or school or how we even behave or act, then all of a sudden we start detaching from that person. And as a child, we don't know who to blame.
Yeah.
So we
And you
blame
just
ourselves.
form. Yep. And we
We blame
form
ourselves and we
these.
say, I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy. And then some people that's where you get a lot of people who are super, super successful, but they're kind of wacky people, right? They're
I think
driven
I.
to the point where you're like, how much is enough, et cetera, et cetera. It's because they're seeking validation, even subconsciously, in their lives because they're trying to the feeling of unworthiness is so uncomfortable that they want to try and reverse it, and you can't reverse it. You can never accomplish enough because that part of your brain and that scaffolding is still 6 years old or 5 years old or 7 years old. You have to actually do the work and go back down in there and deal with it. And that's what I had to do. And it's hard. It's not fun. It's painful. You have to go into those moments. You have to sit with that other person, because that person, that child exists within your psyche. And however you have to get there, through meditation, through, I guess hypnosis, through psychedelics, whatever it is, you can go back and sit with that, feel those experiences again, feel the pain of it, and just sit with it and don't run from it. Because what I would do is, I found in my life, I sabotaged a lot in my life. When I felt threatened, I would start becoming resentful. And I would start subconsciously trying to take it out my partner, whatever it was. Usually it's your partner who suffers the brunt of it, because they're right there, and we put them in this parent-child relationship, right? And so, you start lashing out at them, and it's such a subtle thing that only through like deep meditation did I even feel that rising up. And I remember after a meditation, and I had this epiphany with this. I was like, oh my gosh, this thing is really deep inside me. And guess what? It when you lash out, what does a child do when they lash out? They do something to hurt someone else, someone they love, or they hurt themselves.
Yep.
Where do you think overeating? Where do you think overeating and eating shit, when your conscious mind says, I want to be healthy and I want to get ripped and I want to, and you know what you have to do it, right? You already have the program. Opposite. That's right. When do you do it? When you're stressed, when you're feeling resentful, when your mind reverts back to that subconscious programming. Dude, it's really, but there's hope, it's hard, but it's simple to deal with.
Poof. Big. Heavy.
But it unlocks everything, man. Once you get over that and you feel, no, I am worthy, and then to always know and be aware. Waking up for me is just becoming more and more and more aware of my physiology and my mind, to where when I feel it rising up, I can detach from the mind and the body and watch it, and sit and watch it as it plays itself out. And it will dissipate. All things pass. It will dissipate. The cravings will pass, all of it,
It's true. It's really true. And, on the rare occasion that I'm successful sitting in it and letting it pass, you see how like a wave it is. It comes in and it goes out.
Did we talk about the snake and the rope?
No, I'm not sure.
So there's a very, very ancient metaphor in the Upanishads. I think it's in the Upanishads, ancient Indian text. And the metaphor is the snake and the rope. And we'll leave it on this. But imagine that you walk into a cave, okay? And it's dark, don't know where you are, and you look down and you see a snake, right? You see the snake and you feel the angst, you feel your heart's beating, you're frozen, you don't know what to do, right? It's within striking distance, and you're like, holy shit, if I jump, this thing's gonna hit me, right? Your heartbeat is going. As you look at the snake and you really stop, you don't run, you don't avoid it, you just stop and you stare into the eyes of the snake. And all of a sudden, as your eyes adjust, you realize it's just a rope.
Yeah.
That is 99.9% of the human experience.
Yeah. Well, that's like that Mark Twain quote, to where, like, of all the tragedies I've suffered, most of them never even happened, or something like that.
Yeah. So we see, so this craving rises up, or this resentment rises up, that is really from my childhood subconscious programming. And I'm projecting that this person, right, that I either am in a relationship with or whatever, I'm in business, whatever, this person, my subconscious is saying, you're back and you're seeing the snake again from your childhood, this person who disappointed you or whatever it was. And then when you look at it long enough, you realize that's not at all what this is. That's not it. My mind is projecting a snake onto the rope.
Yep.
And if I sit with it long enough, and so what happens with optical illusions, you remember when I remember being a kid and seeing like the two faces that made the vase, right? And at first I could not see the vase. I only saw the two faces. I could look, like in third grade when we first saw optical illusions. And then the more I looked at it, and then teacher pointed it out, and then I saw it finally, and I was like, oh my God, you know. But then the more I saw the vase, right, that I couldn't see, the more I couldn't see the two faces. And then I only saw the vase at first, you know. And that's what happens with all of this, is the more we sit in meditation and we watch these things and we realize, oh, this is just an incident that happened. The reality is who I am is so unique and so cool, and I can accomplish all these things. I am worthy. This unworthiness is a snake, but it's an illusion, because it's really a rope, and we're all worthy. We're all worthy. We all have this opportunity here in life to experience whatever we want in the simulation. And all we have to do is realize it's just a snake. I mean, it's just a rope. It's not a snake. And once we do that, then the worthiness, but it takes the sitting and staring at the snake to realize it's just a rope. When we do that, it all unlocks everything.
Amen. Oh man.
Yeah, like I said, simple. It's not that it's complicated, but it's just hard. It doesn't feel good, you know.
No, it does not feel good.
But it feels good when it ends. I was saying, I'll leave. Like I was saying, I meditated the other day in the park yesterday, and when I was driving home, I just felt so good. You know, not all meditations are like that, but I just felt I was so much in my awareness and not in my head that it was light. Like, I just was like, this is what enlightenment must be like, right? When you just feel this 24/7 and nothing can perturb you or disturb you. That's the goal, man. That's why I meditate, because I feel that those moments enlarging inside of my life. And so I have more and more and more of those moments. You just have to go. It's like working out. You just got to get in there and do it. Sometimes your nervous system is going to be agitated and the meditation won't be fun. It's not about the experience. It's just about doing it and doing it.
Reps.
Yeah. With reps without expectation, man.
Yeah.
That's a secret to life. Oh, this was awesome, bro. This was awesome. Oh my gosh.
What?
I always love to end this with what we're watching or reading or whatever. So I was reading that book, Nexus, really good. But I just started watching Dune Prophecy, which is the story. It's within the Dune universe.
It's on Max, right?
Yeah.
Is it good?
And so,
it good?
Oh, it's so cool. It's, you know, it's kind of like Game of Thrones set in the Dune universe, but it's about the Bene Gesserit, the witches, 10,000 years when they first were established.
Before the story of
Paul Muad'Dib. So it's really cool, man. You know, I love all that, because, you know, Dune, that universe is all about Frank Herbert, the writer, was so much into psychedelics and meditation and all that. So the Bene Gesserit, you know, they're into meditation. They're into all that. So for me, it's like, yeah, I love this shit, man. It's like right up my alley. But it's cool. It's really cool. It's not as grand as the what you call it, though.
The movies. Yeah.
But it's cool. But if you like it and you like that universe.
I do. And I've been meaning to check it out.
So it's cool. How about you? Anything you've been watching?
I'm watching Sugar, which is pretty cool, with Colin Farrell.
Oh yeah, how far are you into it?
Like 4 or 5 episodes. It's pretty good.
Okay.
I like it.
Wait. I can't wait till the twist comes.
Okay.
We're gonna talk about it.
Okay. All right, cool.
You're gonna freak the F out, bro.
Cool.
You are going to freak the F out.
Oh man. Oh man.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. One more thing. If anybody has Apple TV, for you, I highly recommend it. Is the show Shrinking? I think we've talked about it before.
Yeah. I gotta check that out.
Dude, they delve with it's all about the psyche, and they're all a bunch of shrinks, and Harrison Ford and Jason Segel, and it's so good. It's so good.
Yeah,
I love it. Yeah. All right, homie. Till next
bro.
week, man. It's a good one, man. Later, homie.
Yeah.